Hi there, welcome to the build of this lovely vintage model. It's a 1941 Gladiator that first appeared in Air Trails magazine, and we're building this from a great set of plans on the wall behind me here, and you can download those from the Outer Zone website, and if you have a look in the description below this video you'll find a link. Now you can see this is starting to look really quite stunning. It really is a lovely model, and in the last video we got the basic structure of the tailplane built, the basic skeleton. In this video, carefully take it off, in this video I want to get this cleaned up. There's quite a lot of sanding and profiling to do, which I'm going to do first, and then we need to do a little bit of sheeting, and probably the most important task is to cut out the elevator. We've got two elevators and we're going to join them together with a linked piece of, like a U-shaped piece of music wire, so they can be operated just on a single control horn. So we'll take a quick closer look at this and then we'll get on with it. Right, you can see even though we've got the basic structure of the skeleton of the tailplane, it's still quite crude. We've got quite a rough edge around here. Quite a lot needs to come off to profile this into a lovely shape, and we'll do that first, get the overall shape of it, the outside shape of this done. Once we've got that done, we'll start to think about getting the ribs profiled. The ribs still need just a little bit of touching on these outer tapered ribs, so we've got a nice smooth taper down to the end. And we've also got this back edge, we've got these high pieces here where the elevators are, but that will soon come down with a sanding stick and some 80 grit sandpaper, and then we can move to something a little bit finer. Once we're happy we've got all of this profiled and it's a nice shape, we'll cut out the two elevators there and there, here and here, and we'll then link them together with some U-shaped wire, and once we've got that done we'll hinge them as well, and then we'll have this done. There is also a little bit of sheeting to go on that central section where it sits on the fuselage. Now I'll do the underside in this video, but the top we'll leave until we've got the fin done, so we can work out how we're going to fit the fin into this central section. So I'm going to get outside and sand off a lot of this excess balsa and start to bring this down to shape. Right, now I've got the basic shape more or less done, the outline, and I mean it might change a little bit as time goes on, but I'm quite happy with it for the moment. And on this side I've also, this is the side I'm working on mainly now, I've used a sanding stick like this just to make sure that all those ribs are in line, and when you look at the underside you can't see any light under one of them that's a little bit low, or you've got one that's a little bit high. They taper from this one, so they come down like this to the tip, and it's important that when we put a ruler across or a sanding stick like this, we don't see any light coming underneath. It's all nice and a nice continuous slope. So we've got that more or less done, probably need a little bit more touching up, but what I'm doing now is I'm just going around and taking down this trailing edge, very careful not to catch the ribs, because what I want to do is then bring this back edge down and profile the back. You can see that's quite high there. We've got a step here, so a lot of timber is going to need to come off that. It might be that we need to add a little bit to this piece here of the elevator, the front of the elevator, because it does seem a little bit low, but I'm hoping that when we profile it that will all come into shape. So anyway, I'll get on with this now, and we'll have another look in a bit. Right, I've come inside now. I must admit I don't like sanding inside for obvious reasons, but I need the support of the bench, and I'm bringing this down and just making sure this all profiles in nicely, and just very carefully taking this along and getting the profile of this wing just right. And it's coming really nice, but we do have to be really quite gentle in the sanding of this, because obviously if we catch the ribs we're going to damage them, and that's the last thing we want to do. But the beauty of balsa is that we can repair it, we can glue it, we can add bits. It's a great medium to work with. Here's a suggestion for you. Have your extractor or vacuum going, hold it in your hand while you hold your wing and sand it, and hopefully you won't be breathing in all the dust that way. I hope you can hear me over the noise. Right, well, I've now got this sanded and profiled, and I am really pleased with how it's looking. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. We're more or less there with the shape. It just needs another fine finishing sand, and I'll do that just before covering, because we have the like I say, the overall profile now. And you can see I've put some sheeting on the bottom, and I've put in a strengthening piece just here. I've put another strengthening piece there shown on the plans. I've also put in a couple of pieces just here, because I decided or thought that once I cut out the elevator here, there's not going to be a lot holding that, so I thought I just wanted something to bridge that a little bit, and I've again done it on that side. But this is really nice. I'm really pleased with how it's looking. And when I start a job like this, I always find it a little bit daunting until you get into it, and then it's really good fun just getting it down to shape and profile, and very rewarding when it just starts to look so nice. Now, I've bent up a U-shaped piece of wire, and that is going to go in there like that. Where are we going to go? There. It's going to go in there like... I tell you what, let me put this on the bench and we can just see this a little bit closer. Okay, so I've bent up this piece of 12 gauge music wire, which is about, I think it's about 2.4 mil, and that's going to link these two elevators. When I cut them out, I'm going to glue that in place. So I'm going to cut here, and then at the ends, you just see the ends here, and here there's a pencil line. Now, I need something for that to slot into, so I'm just laminating a piece of balsa that's deep enough for this, and I'm going to glue a piece in here and there. I'm going to profile that to the rest of the wing, and once that's done, then I'm going to cut these out, and we'll get this the holes drilled in there so we can slot the wire in, and we'll get it glued in. But we'll have a look at that in a bit. First, I'll get that balsa in and get it profiled. Right, well, I'm definitely ready now to cut out the elevators. You can see I've got the blocks in here that will have the holes to take the wire to join the elevators, and I've also put in a couple of blocks there, here, so that the hinges have got something else to bite into, or more to bite into. And this is the rough location, or maybe the precise location, I guess, of the hinges. So we need to get these cut out. So we've got the line there. I'm going to cut them here, as I said previously. And then I think the next thing before we do the hinges is to get this wire in and get that epoxied in. So I'll cut that out, and then we'll have a look at how we're going to do that wire. Right, well, you can see I've cut the elevators from the tailplane, and I've got these joined together now with that U-shaped piece of wire. I haven't glued them yet, but I've set it up ready to glue. And if we just have a look at this, just take this out, you can see I've roughed up the wire here just with a pair of side cutters, just put some little grooves in it. And here I've put a hole in, just use my pin vise, and a drill, and cut a slot with a scalpel just for the wire to sit in, so that it's buried as it goes along the back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put epoxy in that. I'll actually use a syringe and a blunt needle, and then that's why I've got the plastic here, and this is against these blocks, which is against this straight edge here, just so that we get a nice straight edge. We don't want this being bent or banana shaped or whatever. We want it to be nice so it functions well when it operates. Once we've got this glued and and the glue's cured, we can then start to think about the hinging. Right, so I've got my epoxy mixed up in the syringe, and we're just going to inject it into that hole. So we'll put the syringe right down the bottom, and let's just check it's coming out first. Get a bit of tissue. Yeah, is that right? Yeah, there we go. So now we can put it in there, and we can just make sure that we're injecting epoxy in the hole there, and that just came oozing out. So now we'll do this one. So we've got that epoxy in there in the groove, just to hold it nice and secure, and again in the groove here. There we go. And now we need to get that in there, and all this will ooze out, no doubt. And actually it's squashed it out of a hole in the side here that I'd put in when I pushed the wire in, or the drill actually. There we go. So we've got that one done, and now we need to get this done. There we go. I've got that all glued, held in place now. There's no lifts on any of this. It's all sat there nice and flat. So we just need for the epoxy to go off now, and then we'll think about hinging. Right, well, I'm just waiting now for the epoxy to go off on the elevator, and I thought I'd get the hinges put in. I've got this one in. These are Cavan hinges. They're really nice. And I'm putting this one in. I'm just using this hinge tool, and all we do is mark the center line, get this started like that, nice and level, and then we just need to keep it nice and level and wiggle it in like that. There we go. And just nice and steady. We don't want to put too much force on it, and then we bring that out. Now there's another tool which you can put in, which has got a hook on it, and rather than changing the actual blade, I'll just use this by hand, and you could just pull out some of the balsa, and we can just slot this in now, hopefully. Yeah, it just needs a little bit more with this, but you get the picture. There we go, that's gone through now. Right, and we've got the second hinge, so I just need to do the outer two, which are going to need to be a little bit higher up than central, just so that this actually hinges nicely, but I'll get those done. Right, I've now got 3 of the hinges done. You can see there's a hinge in there and there's corresponding slots in, and I thought it was worth saying that it's imperative that we get this hinge line for all 4 hinges in a straight line, which seems obvious, but what we have to take into account is that because the tailplane tapers here, it does bring this hinge right on the very top of the tailplane and the elevator. It's not a problem, but what we need to do is, rather than holding the hinging tool level like this, or horizontal, what we need to do is we need to angle it down. If we do it horizontal in line with the plane of the tail, then we're going to break out the top here. So we need to come down at an angle, and that's fine. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference to the hinge at all, as long as the actual hinge pin is in line with the others. So I've marked the center point, and I say the centre, I don't mean the centre of here, but I mean the centre of these. Maybe centre is not the best phrase for that. And like I say, I just need to angle that down and get this slot done. Don't want to angle it too much or we're going to burst out at the bottom. We just want to go through the bulk of this and get some thickness of balsa above the hinge. There, that's coming out now, I can just feel it. And just get this out, and I'll swap over with this hook tool, hook out the balsa, and then we can do a similar kind of thing on the elevator as well. So I'll get that done and we'll get these all pushed in and see how it works. Right, well, we've almost got this done now. You can see that this is hinged, and at the moment it's all sat nice and flat on the table, and it will come up and down. Now it will go down further and up further once I've just put a little bit of a bevel on the front of the elevator here. But to be honest, I'm not sure we need much more movement than that. You just see that's quite a lot of movement, but I will bevel it just so we can have more movement if necessary. I'm really pleased with the way this has worked. It's lovely and free, really nice. The only slight downside is on both these end hinges I did come through a little bit, but that will fix no problem. So I'm not really concerned about that. It would have been nice if the balsa had been a little bit thicker there. Now, the last job I've got to do is to make a central section that just goes in there, which will actually be glued to this this piece of wood here, this spar. And what I'll do is I'll make it into a taper, the same as the elevators, and then I will put a slot in the back here that will go over that wire, and this will CA onto there, and it will allow this to move up and down. But we won't be CAing this on until we've got the tailplane covered, the elevators covered, the hinges glued in. We'll have this covered and then we'll put this on, or we might even cover it afterwards, but we'll put this on last, because once we put this on we can't take the elevator off because of the wire, which makes perfect sense, of course. So I'm going to get that made up now, and then I think we're done. Right, we've now got this central section done. It's still going to need a little bit off the sides because that will bind if not. It still needs a little bit off the length, but we'll do that when we come to give the whole plane a final sand and fitting of everything before we start doing the covering. We can see we've got the slot in there. You just see that covers the wire, and that doesn't alter the movement at all. We have to remember as well that the fin is going to sit here. It'll be glued into here, but it'll also be glued onto this section as well, which will give that more strength. Now, I mentioned earlier Cavan hinges that I'm using, and these are the hinges, just so you can see. I didn't actually give the details. So, really pleased to get this done. And now it's time to move on, put this aside and start to build the fin. And we've got to fit a rudder to this because it was free flight. So we're going to make this RC, of course, radio control. But it's really nice to get this done, and it's a lovely shaped tailplane. It is really nice. And we've got this lovely big elevator on the back. I did wonder when I first started out whether I made it big enough, but actually I think that will be absolutely fine, and we've got plenty of movement in it. So I'm going to draw this video to a close now, and I hope you've enjoyed seeing the finishing off of this tailplane, and hope you found it interesting. And please come back, see how we get on modifying the fin to radio control, and we might build this skid as well. I don't know, I need to give a little bit of thought as to what we're going to do next, but certainly good to get this tailplane finished.